Hi guys, they will be talking about humility. These are teachings about foundations of healing. This is one of the core values of healing and becoming. So hope you learned something today. Right? So what we will be talking about today is what's humility and different kinds of humility. For this video, the next video will talk about humility, trauma, and capacity, and humility and healing. So there are many kinds of humility. One of which is humility and healing. This will be the focus of this video. Philippians 2:3 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, and not looking on your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. In your relationship with another, have the same mindset of Christ, who, being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, rather than made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death." So this verse, as I see it, um, it defined humility as becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross. Therefore, God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee would bow, in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord, the glory of God the Father. Yeah, so that's the Bible definition. Let's go with other definitions. Webster's 1928 defines humility as freedom from pride and arrogance, humbleness of mind, a modest estimate of one's own worth. In theology, humility consists of lowliness of mind, a deep sense of unworthiness in the sight of God, and self abasement and penitence of sin, and submission to the divine will. So, this is an old definition. That's how Webster defined it. So, Merriam Webster says it is freedom from pride and arrogance, the quality and state of being humble. Britannica says it is the quality of or state of not thinking you are better than other people. The quality of being humble, characterized by low focus on self and accurate, not over and not underestimated sense of one's accomplishments and worth, and an acknowledgement of one's limitation, imperfection, mistakes, gaps in knowledge, and so on. It's for APA Dictionary, American Psychological Association Dictionary. Oxford reference says it's submissiveness before God. Humility came to be regarded as a virtue as Christ humbles himself and became obedient unto death, just like the verse that we have discussed. St. Thomas of Aquinas thought of it as involving moderation of ambition to keep it in the bounds of within the bounds of appointed to each individual by God. So it's keeping your ambition in moderation with the pointed bounds by God, as per Thomas Aquinas. Martin Luther says that it's a joyful acceptance of God's will, and modern Protestant moralists identify it as resignation of resignation to dependence on God. So it's resignation of our own will, complete resignation and dependence on God. Humility as foundation of spiritual growth, yeah, according to Desert Fathers and Christian mystics. Right. So for this video, the humility is in the context of emotional healing. So for this one, um, we will be using this definition by Everett Worthington. So if you want to learn more about forgiveness and humility, uh, and its scientific evidences, research-based theories, look at his books. It's really good. Right. So we're getting that definition of humility from his point of view. We personally believe, he said, that there are three core concepts of humility. First is the accurate assessment of self, which includes, being aware of your limitation. Next is modest presentation of yourself. So you're not just honest in your self-assessment, you're also honest in your self-presentation. Third, and third is that the interpersonal stance that is others oriented or other oriented rather than self-oriented. So it's an accurate assessment of self, modest self-presentation, and other oriented rather than self-oriented. So humility is best observed in contexts where it's difficult to act humbly. So you will not know if a person is humble, not unless you put him in pressure. You put him in tension, in strain. Will he have an accurate assessment of himself? Will he be modest in presenting himself? Or will he be other oriented or self absorbed? So you will only know that when there's a difficult situation. In a comfortable situation, it's hard to judge, right? Just as courage is difficult to assess until someone is placed in danger and is fearful and is fearful. So you would know when someone is courageous when they are placed in dangerous and fearful situation. If a person stands out, then that person is courageous. It is proven. Like the story of David and Goliath, right? Forgiveness is hard because to evaluate until one is deeply hurt or offended. So unless you're hurt and offended, um, you will not know if you are have the ability to forgive or you're capable of forgiveness. But of course, no one's capable really of forgiveness for intense offenses, no, except for depending on God. And humility is best observed when the ego is placed under strain. So same with humility, you have to put the person under pressure and observe if he will have an accurate assessment of himself or will he look at himself more superior than others. Will he present himself in a modest way or will he be oriented to others or will he think that it's all about him or her and his feelings and what he desires or she desires, right? So for Christians, I added this up. um, it's not just other oriented, we are also spirit oriented. So what is the spirit doing in this situation? So we're not just others oriented. We are not led by needs. We're not led by other people's expectation. We are not led by other stuff other than the spirit. And the children of God is led by the spirit of God, meaning you have to always search his heart, ask him on the present situation, right? Because his advice is always um, fresh, right? Always applicable to the present situation. So how about you? How do you define humility?